Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if smart Naruto got ultimate harem Haku, Yakumo Kurama Temari, Mei Terumi Yugao, Tsunami, Makoto, Shizuka, Tsunade, Hana, and Yugito, Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. 10,000 years ago. A young orange-haired boy unleashed his final assault upon his enemy as the sky turned dark black. This young man's name is Ichigo Kurosaki. However, while his enemy is dead, the consequences of unleashing the final Getsuga Tensho known as Mugetsu were grave. The attack used all his power but his life as well, so unless he received some sort of divine intervention he would die never to be reincarnated as he faded into oblivion. Little did he know that divine intervention is exactly what he would receive. As he lay there dying, all his friends and family are there with him. "Kurosaki-kun, please don't die," Orihime said with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry Orihime, but I knew the risks when I used that attack to finish off Aizen. I knew this was a one-way trip for me, but maybe I'll see again in the next life." Ichigo, he said with a smile. Little did he realize just how true that statement was. "Kurosaki Ichigo, you have done the Soul Society and the world of the living a great service. I don't know how we can repay such sacrifice, but if it is within my power please ask." The head captain asked, kneeling down to take Ichigo's hand in his as a comforting gesture. Ichigo coughed while squeezing the head captain's hand. "I can already feel my life fading, so listen to me Gramps and listen well. I want every single one of those Urs in Central 46 that call themselves a government executed and removed from power. In their place, I want a truly noble governing body installed but watched over by the Gote 13 to ensure the mistakes of the past don't happen again. Next, I want the records of the Vizards, Kazuki, Tessai and Yoruichi wiped clean of any wrongdoing and their positions within the Seraite restored so they may return if they choose. Finally, watch over my friends and family for me and ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. I also want you to pass on my values to the next generation of Soul Reapers. When they graduate from the academy tell them this, primo genera micorum dien postmodem, for it is at the core of all my beliefs." He said. "But, what does it mean Ichigo-kun?" Yukataki asked. Ichigo looked at him, forcing himself to remain conscious long enough to answer his question. "Family first, friends second. Then yourself," he said as the life finally faded from his eyes. The ones that took it the hardest were Yoruichi, Rukia, Orihime and his sisters. They were all openly crying at Ichigo's sacrifice. Just then, there was bright flash and a new person had joined the grieving party. Who are you?" A grieving Yoruichi asked. "Forgive me young one. I couldn't help but notice this young man give his life for the sake of his friends and loved ones and I just had to come down and pay my respects. It amazes me that he could generate that kind of power without even a proper Zanpakuto. Not only that, but to be so noble and self-sacrificing and without an arrogant bone in his body, such a unique quality that is rarely ever seen these days. Oh, where are my manners? My name is Amaterasu, primordial goddess of creation and the universe," she said. A collective gasp was heard all around as she introduced herself. "Now that we know who you are, why are you here?" Karen asked with tears in her eyes. "My apologies little one, I came to collect his soul for reincarnation," the goddess replied. "But we thought the final Getsuga Tensho destroyed the soul of the user, so reincarnation wasn't possible," a shocked Ishin said with a raised eyebrow. "Normally you would be correct. However, when there is a noble sacrifice involved, I can override that," she replied, and with snap of her fingers, she collected his soul. "There we go, and now since that is done, one final bit of business, then I shall take my leave." "Wait, will we ever see him again? Kurosaki-kun means so much to everyone, especially me, Rukia and Yoruichi and his sisters," Orihime asked with tears streaming down her face. "I am sorry you will not see him again any time soon Orihime-chan, When you die, I will come to collect your souls and you shall be reincarnated into the same era as Ichigo-kun. Except for Yoruichi-chan, she is coming with me now. Amaterasu said. Why me and no one else? Yoruichi exclaimed with a panicked look on her face. Now Yoruichi-chan, calm down please. You do not realize this, but your title, Goddess of Flash, is actually quite appropriate and not for your propensity to tease Ichigo-kun by parading around the house, but for your speed in Shunpo and because you have divine blood flowing through your veins. Did you know that the very first members of the Shihoin, Kuchiki, Kiraku, Yukataki, Fan, Shiba and Yamamoto clans were demigods, and your clan is of my blood? It is why you are given the title, Sacred Armorers, as you guard all of the divine artifacts, but also your speed was inherited from my son and I, as well as your own hard word. The first Shihoin was my son, his name was Jashiro, as well as Captain Yukataki's namesake. His speed and mastery of Shunpo were worlds apart from your and Captain Soi Fan's. It was him that made Ho-Ho mastery a requirement to join the punishment force. I sent him here when he came of age and he started the Shihoin clan shortly thereafter. I do not have a last name, so he created the surname, Shihoin, because he thought it was cool. By all rights, that makes me your great-grandmother 22 generations removed. Amaterasu said, only to receive a hug from Yoruichi. But what does that have to do with the rest of us? Soi Fan asked. That brings me to my final bit of business. Each of the clans I mentioned have 5 years to honor young Ichigo's dying wish, and after that I am bringing you back to the realm of the gods. We gods miss our grandchildren and we want you all back home with us. Isshin-yu will inform Kukaku and Ganju about everything that has happened and move them to Karakura town with you, where I will pick all of you up in 5 years. When Ichigo is reincarnated, you cannot be his father, nor can Yuzu and Karen be his sisters, but the three of you, Kukaku and Ganju, can adopt him as a nephew or little brother if you wish, so that you can be part of his life. As for the rest of you, I am sorry to say that because you are demigods of minor gods or gods that have already faded, you will not live long enough to see his reincarnation, but I will reincarnate you into someone close to him and allow you to leave his reincarnation a gift of your choosing. Yamamoto-kun, sadly you only have about 800 years left. I suggest within those 5 years you focus on making peace with my great-grandnephew Yuwatch and his Quincy's, inform Yuwatch has happened and give him this from me. This technique should help you enter the shadows of Soul Society, and she tapped his forehead, giving the needed knowledge. Goodbye everyone, I will see you in 5 years. She said, handing him a glowing golden orb before disappearing in a golden flash. 2 years later. Yama-jii, is it time to complete Ichigo's requests? Kiraku asked. It is. It's just that, what I am about to do I wish I didn't have to. However, Lady Amaterasu demands it, so I have to. While I'm gone, I want you, Hana and Captain Kuchiki to execute the members of Central 46. He said, tapping his cane before entering the world between the Soul Society and the real world, the Shadow Realm. Halt. Who goes? A low-level Quincy shouted. I am Captain Commander of Gote 13 Shigekuni Genryusai Yamamoto. I have come on urgent business to speak with Yuwatch. Please let him know that I am here. Yamamoto replied. Hi. Right away, sir. Said soldier exclaimed before running to tell his master. My lord, a Shinigami has arrived and wishes to speak with you. It sounded urgent. The soldier said. Very well. Show him in. Yuwatch replied. Jugram, when our business is concluded, kill the Shinigami. Yes, your highness. Jugram replied. Doors to the throne room opened and every Quincy there was speechless to see who it was. Yamamoto. What are you doing here? Yuwatch exclaimed, drawing his blade. Hold, Yuwatch. I didn't come here to fight, was the captain's reply. Then why are you here? The Quincy king asked with a questioning but confused gaze. To make peace, of course, was his reply. Ha. You come here after 1,000 years. I expect me to believe you want, especially after our past history. I should kill you right now for your insolence. Yuwatch replied. You could, but then you would not hear the message I came to deliver. The aged captain replied as he tossed Yuwatch the orb Amaterasu handed him. The second Yuwatch touched it, a holographic message began to play. Hello Yuwatch-kun, I am fairly certain you know who I am, so introductions are not necessary. What Yamamoto-kun told you is the truth. He does want peace, so please listen to him. He speaks for me in this matter. I will see you in 5 years. Be ready to leave by then. I look forward to seeing you then. The hologram said and then disappeared. All of the Quincy's were shocked by this so much so that they couldn't speak. The head captain actually chuckled when he saw this. Oh my, what's the world coming to? The great and powerful Quincy King is speechless. I hope that isn't a sign of the coming apocalypse. The head captain said with a mirthful grin. Ha, ha, very funny Yamamoto. Now why are you here? I seriously doubt it was to deliver Lady Amaterasu's message then leave. Yuwatch replied. You are correct. You know me better than any of the other Quincy, and I know that you have been watching us since our last fight 1,000 years ago, so you know that me asking for help from anyone is something my pride wouldn't allow, especially asking for help from you of all people, but that is exactly what I am doing. I need your help, Yuwatch. At this declaration, Yuwatch's eyes widened in shock. I must say, given our history, I am shocked, but at the same I am intrigued. Please continue. He replied. I have been given divine authority by Lady Amaterasu and the High Council to make certain changes to the Soul Society, changes that I always believed were needed but C46 would never allow, and that is where you come in. But before he could continue, Yuwatch interrupted him. You mean to say that Lady Amaterasu and the High Council gave you such authority? Why now and not 1,000 years ago when the Soul King and C46 ordered our extinction? He asked. The Soul King began falling out of favor with the High Council after the Quincy's were ordered exterminated all those years ago, and recent events were the final straw. I assume you know of Aizen's treachery and the resulting war 2 years ago. Replied Yamamoto. I do. He killed C46 and fled with the Hogyoku and 2 of your captains. However, what does that have to do with why you are here? Yuwatch asked. Before the end and during the war we had reinstated C46, but I knew they were just in it for themselves, as did a brave young man named Ichigo Kurosaki that fought alongside us during the war. The war ended faster than we all expected, and young Kurosaki used a sacrificial technique which used not only his Ryutsu but his life force to attack Aizen and put him down for good. When it was over just before he died, he made 3 requests of us, all of which have been completed except one. The formation of a new governing body. Yamamoto replied. And you want me to be part of this new government of yours? Yuwatch asked. No, but I do need 6 of your Quincy's, preferably those of a high rank and station. The C46 always had 46 members, 43 normal members and 3 sages. Well, to honor Ichigo's dying wish, we are forming a new truly balanced governing body. 6 Quincy's, 6 Arankar and 6 Soul Reapers, with one of each of those groups acting as a sage, so the new government would be completely impartial, acting in the best interest of keeping the balance of all 3 worlds. Yamamoto replied. Very well. I agree to your proposal and help you honor young Ichigo's dying wish. I will appoint Sternritters B. Jugram Hashwalth, X. Leal Barrio, E. Bambietta Basterbine, T. Candice Catnip, P. Meninas McCollin and D. Askin Nak Lavar. With Jugram acting as the Quincy sage. Yuwatch said. Agreed. Yamamoto said. That young boy must have meant a great deal to you for you to be here asking for my help. Yuwatch replied. Indeed he did. I never got the chance to tell him this, but I was proud of him and thought of him as a grandson, and not telling him is something I will always regret. He always did what was right even if it conflicted with the orders he was given, and while he never openly defied orders, he always found a way to bend the rules and do things his way, damn the consequences. I always saw a bit of my younger self in him. It's a shame he had to die putting that bastard Aizen down. If he'd lived, I would have made him my successor. The head captain replied. Wow, if you think that highly of him, I am sorry I never got the chance to meet him. But, why all this talk of a successor? I thought surely you'd outlive all of us. Yuwatch said. You'd think so, but I don't have much time left. I'm old, you watch. I was already 1,000 years old when we had our fight 1,000 years ago. That means I'm 2,100 years old now. Normally, as the grandson of Kagutsuchi, the god of fire, many generations removed, my own flame wouldn't hurt me and even help to regenerate me and heal my wounds, essentially making me immortal. But because of an adversary I fought long before I met you, I used my Bankai before I was ready and scorched my soul quite badly, and the price was immortality. I only have 800 years left, which is why I am here now asking for your help in honoring Ichigo's dying wish. When my business is concluded, I plan to retire and live out my remaining years in Takamagahara with my family, maybe teach young gods how to be warriors. He replied. We have an accord, Genryusai. I will send the 6 Quincy we agreed upon to pack their things and leave with you within 20 minutes. Yuwatch said, shaking Genryusai's hand. 20 minutes later, they had all arrived back in Soul Society, and the first thing they were told was C-46 had been executed. The members of the new governing body were waiting for them at the old C-46 complex. Genryusai could tell his last 3 years in Soul Society were going to be interesting. If he only knew how right he was. 3 years later. In the 3 years since the new governing body took over, many changes were made. The biggest change that was made was that C-46 was relabeled C-18 to accommodate the new members. Amaterasu surprised everyone and deposed the old Soul King, promptly executed him, and named Yuwatch as his replacement as well as God of Souls. And since he used Quincy for the Royal Guard and the former Royal Guard were elevated in status to High Guardsmen of the Celestial Temple in Takamagahara. Any laws the old C-46 passed were repealed and thrown out, and new, more lenient ones put in their place. Amaterasu and the gods came and got their grandchildren 6 months earlier than expected. After that, everyone lived happy lives. 7,395 years later in Takamagahara. Well, sister, has it happened yet? Tsukuyomi asked her sister. Yes, it has. That bastard sage has sealed Kagaya-chan and the Jubi in the moon. However, before that he split the Jubi's power 9 ways and created 9 demonic beasts. She replied. So, what are we going to do? Tsukuyomi asked. First, we are going to wait until that fool is dead, and then we will get the tailed beasts' help in reviving their grandmother. Amaterasu replied. But Hagoromo Otsutsuki, that bastard sage, has the Rinnegan. He will become a god upon death, and not even we can stop it. The moon goddess exclaimed. But that is where you are wrong, sister. Kagaya was goddess when she was sealed. She was granted divinity by me when she ate the fruit of the Shinju and adopted by me, which means the Rinnegan that Hagoromo used was a gift from the gods, a gift that he misused when he betrayed and sealed my daughter, his mother. Such betrayal cannot and will not go unpunished. When he dies, he will spend the rest of eternity in our sister's cold embrace, and there is nothing he can do about it. Amaterasu replied. 80 years later. Ah, it only took 80 years, but I finally died and became a god thanks to my Rinnegan. It is a shame those foolish gods and those idiotic Biju have no idea what I have planned. Akane and her siblings have no idea I was just using them as a means to an end. When the child of the prophecy is born, I will finally make my move and change the heavens in my image, and that fool Yuwatch and the Soul Society will not stop me. Hagoromo said. Just then he felt a presence behind him, and immediately he knew who it was, and his eyes went wide. Amaterasu-sama, Tsukuyomi-sama, Shinigami-sama, Suzano-sama, Yuwatch-sama, what do I owe the pleasure of your visit? He said. Oh, you mean you don't know why we're here? Yuwatch questioned. Indeed, it seems strange for someone touted as a prophet not to know. I think he was just faking it all these years. Suzano said, making Hagoromo sweat. I agree. I mean, it does seem strange for someone with the Rinnegan, an eye gifted by the gods, said to be able to see the past and the future, enable the bearer to have an affinity for all the elements and revive the dead. That very someone should know why we're here instead of playing dumb thinking we didn't see what he did. Amaterasu said. An ignorant little twat like you used the eye we gifted you to seal his mother, my daughter, away. she exclaimed as tears streamed down her face. You have betrayed us and used your gifts against the gods, such an act will not go unpunished. Tsukuyomi said. What do you mean? I did the gods' bidding and sealed away a great evil, and you dare accuse me of betrayal? He shouted as he tried to defend himself. Yes, we do accuse you of betrayal. And for that your divinity will be stripped from, and I have come to collect you and take you to the underworld for all eternity for your sin against us. The Shinigami said as Amaterasu snapped her fingers and turned Hagoromo into a regular soul. And Shinigami then waved her hand and sent to the underworld to be tortured for all eternity. 20 years later. It has been 20 years since the Hagoromo was stripped of his godhood and sealed away in Yomi, and now the gods stand before 9 fully grown tailed beasts, showing them their memories of Hagoromo's conversation he was having with himself. That is what we heard saying to himself right after he died. Now we need your help to right the wrong he perpetrated against my daughter and the Jubi. Amaterasu said. What would you have us do? Akane asked. Simple. I want each of you to give us a portion of your energy so that we may revive the Jubi and separate my daughter from her. That is all, nothing more and nothing less. The sun goddess replied. The Biju agree and poured their energy into a giant ball, which was then amplified and fed to the husk that was the Jubi. After a few moments there was a bright flash, and before them stood the Jubi in all her demonic glory, and next to her stood a beautiful woman with white hair that went to her ankle and 2 horns sticking out of her head, one on either side. You all know what Kagaya looks like, so I won't rehash that, as she looks the same as in canon. The Jubi was extremely beautiful herself, standing at 5 feet 9 inches tall, long flowing black hair that stopped just below her, and 2 gold slitted eyes with 3 rings and 9 tomio 3 on each ring. Both women looked up to see where they were, and to their surprise they saw the other Biju and the gods. Ama-chan, Okaa-chan. Both women shouted as they gave Amaterasu a hug, which she gladly returned. Hello Kikyo-chan, Kagu-chan, it is good to see you again, especially considering what that idiotic sage did to you. Amaterasu said. Kagaya, Kikyo, these are the Biju, they helped us rescue you from your confinement. Go on, you lot, introduce yourselves. She said, pointing to the 9 Biju. I am Shukaku, I am Matabi, I am Isobu, I am Son Goku, I am Kokuo, I am Seiken, I am Chome, I am Gyuki, and I am Akane. They said, introducing themselves. Thank you for helping to revive us, Kikyo-chan, and we really appreciate it. Kagaya said with a smile as the Buju smiled back. Kagaya-chan, I have good news for you, as well as Kikyo-chan and Akane-chan. Maybe Matabi-chan and Shumei-chan too. Amaterasu said. What do you mean? Her daughter asked. During the time the other gods and I were waiting to free you and Kikyo-chan, I had a vision of a prophecy, a child of prophecy. This child will be of your blood and another shinobi, and both he is destined to change the shinobi world for the better. This man will claim to love you and then betray you, but before doing so he will give you 2 children, a boy the child of the prophecy and a daughter. The daughter you will raise separately to protect her, and the boy will stay in the village of his birth, where you will leave instructions for him to be treated like a hero by the village. That request will be ignored and he will be treated like a pariah and beaten severely behind the back of the Hokage for being the container of Akane-chan, until during a particularly savage beating he will activate his bloodline and taken to his home, where he will meet his grandmother and grand-uncle from his father's side of the family and taken from the village to train. However, between the time of his birth and the day he leaves the village he will be gifted with many blessings to help on his journey. He will possess many bloodlines as well as many Zanpakuto. He will also be arranged to marry the Nibi, Nanabi, Kyubi, Jubi, and my granddaughter Yoruichi Shihoin, as well as 2 very beautiful Kages and many others. However, before that day comes, I will send you to the human world to pose as an orphaned human girl. I will reverse your aging and seal your memories until the day your children are born. You will still be a goddess, but you will know nothing of your own heritage until the day of the Kyubi's attack and your children's birth. Then on that day your memories of your true self will be unsealed. 2587 years later, 13 before current timeline. Hokage-sama, the Kyuubi is attacking, we need to seal it. Random shinobi said. I know, but we have to wait for Minato. Hiruzen, what's the situation? Minato asked. The Kyuubi is attacking and we need to seal it. Okay, I'll seal it inside my son, he is the only one available as Kushina has yet to give birth to my daughter. Okay, Minato, but hurry. Little did Minato know that Hiruzen and Jiraiya had known about the prophecy as the toads had told them, and neither they nor the toads ever told Minato as he had developed behavioral oddities that made them not trust him with that information. Minato stood before the gates of Konoha, went through some hand signs and said, summoning jutsu. Before him stood Gamabunta in all his glory. Minato, what do you want, brat? Bunta said. I need your help with sealing Kyuubi. You want me to fight that thing? Are you crazy? Gamabunta-sama, I only need you to keep it busy while I prepare the sealing. Alright, brat, but make it quick. Bunta yelled. Minato disappeared in a yellow flash and moments later appeared with Kushina next to him and began the process of summoning the Shinigami. Summoning jutsu. Moments later, a blue ethereal being appeared on the battlefield. What do you want, human? He asked. Shinigami-sama, wish for you help me seal the Kyuubi in exchange for the soul of my wife and unborn daughter. He exclaimed. Ha, 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 Minato, you fool, do honestly think my own aunt would willingly let you sacrifice me to seal the Kyuubi? You're ever dumber than you look. Kushina said as she walked over to the Kyuubi and gave her a scroll for her to look at later. What do you mean, your aunt? Minato, you foolish mortal. My real name isn't Kushina Uzumaki. My real name is Kagaya Otsutsuki and I am a goddess and the adopted daughter of Amaterasu, the one called Kami. The Shinigami's true name is Yami, goddess of darkness and the underworld, and you have just committed a grave sin against her. Mortal, for your crime against the gods I lay claim to your soul and send you to hell. Yami said as Minato's soul was consumed, leaving an empty soulless body behind. Shinigami removed the genjutsu cast upon the Kyuubi and sealed her within little Naruto, placed a barrier around the little boy and took Kagaya to the realm of the gods. Moments later, a root agent showed to try and kidnap the little boy for his master but was struck down the moment he touched the barrier. A minute later, the Sandaime and Jiraiya showed up and took custody of the little boy. Sensei, I don't like this. I know, Jiraiya-kun, but in this instance we don't have a choice. Here, take this scroll. It contains all of Minato's techniques and all agreements that he had with civilians, Danzo and Homura, that I want out of the village. What agreements, and what about Tsunade? Jiraiya asked. Minato had several agreements with Kakashi and the people I mentioned, that upon his death he would leave them everything and leave his children with nothing. Little did he know that because of him taking the Namikaze name he was considered a commoner, and when he married Kagaya he married into royalty, and the Otsutsuki absorbed all Namikaze assets, making him the Otsutsuki clan head in title only, meaning he had no right to give anyone anything with Kagaya's approval. So in essence he not only broke clan law but committed treason against the village and the Fire Country. Furthermore, as far as Tsunade is concerned, she is his fiancée, but I have no doubt that a root agent has recently been dispatched and informed her that Kagaya and Naruto are dead, so she won't return to the village. For now, Jiraiya-kun, I want you to maintain your spy network and I'll look after Naruto-kun. Tsunade will be told the truth when the time is right and not before. Now, before Danzo or the civilians show up, you need to leave. He said as Jiraiya nodded his head and shunshined away. Naruto-kun, I know the village will not honor your mother's wishes and the clans and myself will protect you as best we can, but your life will have a lot of hardships. I only hope you can show the mental fortitude to handle them all. Hiruzen thought, looking at the sleeping baby in his arms. Streets of Konoha. It has been 8 years since the Kyuubi was sealed inside an infant. Said infant's name is Naruto Uzumaki. We find young Naruto running down the street being chased by a mob of civilians and shinobi that hated him. Come back here, demon. Yeah, come back here so we can finish what the fourth started and send you to hell where you belong. The group of civilians and shinobi shouted as they cornered the little boy in an alley. Please stop. I didn't do anything to you. Why do you want to hurt me? An extremely frightened Naruto asked. Didn't do anything. You're a murderer. You killed our families and friends and we are going to send you hell, you little monster. A shinobi with gravity-defying gray hair wearing an Inu mask shouted as lightning coated his hand. Guess who? I didn't do anything. I don't know anything. The little boy exclaimed. That's right, demon. You don't know anything and you never will. The Inu masked shinobi shouted as he shoved his lightning-coated hand into the little boy's chest. Little did he know that a certain nine-tailed Biju was already healing her host as the mob left high-fiving each other for finally killing the demon. At least that is what they hoped. If they had bothered to stick around, they would have seen his body begin to glow as his bloodline activated. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto found himself in a dark place with water that was ankle-deep and he immediately thought he was dead. His ears perked up because he heard someone crying, so he followed the sound till he found its source. Hello. Are you okay? He asked as he heard her crying but couldn't see her. Naruto-kun, I am so sorry for what I did to you. She said. What do you mean what you did to me? He asked. She came into the light in her human form. She was beautiful with 9 red fox tails, piercing red slitted eyes and long red hair. She was 5 feet 8 inches tall, long slender legs that went on forever and stood there stark. Naruto immediately blushed at what he was seeing. He liked it and she knew it as she was also blushing a new shade of red. Can you put some clothes on? Naruto asked as he turned around to let her do so. Is this better, Naruto-kun? She asked. He nodded and asked, who are you? My name is Akane and I am the 9-tailed fox and the reason for your life up to this point. Kyuubi. Naruto exclaimed in fear. I thought the Yondaime killed you. No, Naruto-kun, the Yondaime didn't kill me as you can't kill a being of pure energy. Naruto-kun, do you know anything about your family? She replied. No, every time I ask Gigi or Kaharu-ba-chan they tell me they don't know. I know they're hiding something from me, I just don't know what. He replied. Indeed, they are. However, things concerning my attack on the village 8 years ago have been hidden from you and the general populace. She said, but why would they hide things from me and everyone else? He asked. Over the next few hours she told him everything from the attack 8 years ago to her being one of his future brides and what his bastard father tried to do to both him and his mother. And like she predicted, he was more than a little pissed, but the anger wasn't directed at her, his mother or his Gigi and Ba-chan, but solely at his father and his co-conspirators. He reached up to remove the seal tag on the front of the gate when someone grabbed his hand and pulled him away. Who are you? Naruto exclaimed. Naruto, my name is Minato Namikaze and I am your father. Everything the Kyuubi told you is a lie. The filthy beast must remain in its cage. Minato said with a malicious grin on his face which Naruto caught. Naruto promptly walked up to his father and kicked him square in the nuts, and when he hunched over he got a kick to the face. Minato may have just been a soul shard, but he was in his son's mindscape, so anything Naruto did to him still hurt like hell as Naruto was the king of that world. Q-chan didn't lie to me. I would know if she did. You on the other hand are trying to confuse and take advantage of me and I want you gone. Naruto said. You ignorant little demon, I made this seal, I control this seal and I'm not going anywhere. Minato said as he stalked towards little Naruto. Akane didn't like it and tried everything she could to force that cage open so she could protect her future husband, but it wouldn't move an inch. When all hope seemed lost, there was a bright flash of light, and standing there in all her glory was the Shinigami. Minato immediately feared what was to come. Q-chan, it has been a while. Minato Namikaze, you have stuck your nose in the affairs of others for far too long and it stops right now. She said, waving her hand, sending the final piece of Minato's soul to hell. Naruto-kun, your mother cannot wait to see you, and when you wake up and leave this village you will meet her and your godfather. I am sorry for what the village has done to you, my cute little maelstrom. she said, giving him a hug which he gladly returned. We will meet again, Naruto-kun. After that she disappeared. Q-chan, time to get you out of here, he said, ripping off the seal. Naru-kun, when you wake up, we will talk further. We have much to discuss, Akane said as she disappeared. Outside, the Hokage arrived and saw the carnage around him, and his eyes immediately looked to the center of the destruction as a bright light lit up the alley. Naruto, what have they done to you, my boy? You have done nothing to deserve this, he said as 4 more flashes lit up the alley. Who are you? He asked, demanded. We are people concerned for the safety of little Naru-kun, considering what just happened to him, and we have much to discuss, but not here, some place more private. One of the cloaked figures said. Fine, we will go to my office and talk there, Hiruzen said as his Anbu and the cloaked figures disappeared. Now who are you and what is your interest in Naruto-kun? He demanded. Very well, we have come for the purpose of taking him away to get trained. I am Midoriko Uchiha, Minato's mother and Naruto's grandmother. This gentleman next to me is Madara Uchiha, my brother and his grand-uncle. This beautiful woman to my right is the Jubi no Okami, also known as Kikyo Otsutsuki, the 10-tailed wolf and one of Naruto's fiancés, and finally the beautiful red-haired young lady to her right is Akane Otsutsuki, also known as the 9-tailed fox, also one of his fiancés. Midoriko said. Hiruzen and his Anbu had their jaws on the, and not more than a minute after introductions were made, Midoriko threw a kunai into the far left bookcase, and everyone watched as a blank masked Anbu fell out as everyone looked at her with amazement. What? I did say that we had to talk in private, didn't I? Having one of Danzo's roots spying on us is anything but private, she said as Naruto began to stir. If I may, would it be alright if I sent for others that care for Naruto? Hiruzen asked the female Uchiha, getting a nod. Neko, would you get me Elder Kaharu, Kurenai, Anko, Hana Inuzuka and the clan heads and remove your mask when you return? He said. Yes, Hokage-sama, she replied. A few minutes later she returned with the mentioned individuals and removed her mask. What's the deal, old man? I was just about ready to go to sleep, Anko, before looking over to the corner and seeing Naruto lying there with a fresh circular scar on his chest. Old man, what happened to him? She questioned, making her way over to her favorite little prankster with tears in her eyes as she ran a hand through his platinum bond-streaked blood-red hair. Judging from that circular scar, I think you know what happened to Anko-chan, he replied, seeing the look of righteous fury in her eyes. Kakashi, that bastard. When I get my hands on that ignorant he'll be lucky if I leave him alive, let alone able to have kids, she screamed as all the men in the room flinched. Calm down, Anko. We'll deal with him later, or let Naruto-kun later on when he's strong enough. Right now, though, we have other matters to attend to, Hiruzen replied. Like what, Hokage-sama? Hiashi replied. These people wish to take Naruto-kun out of the village for training. He then explained who they were. So, you're the ladies his mother told us about, Madara said. Is Kagaya-chan okay? Kurenai asked. Yes, she is. She was severely weakened after giving birth to Naruto and his sister and had to spend all these years in the realm of the gods, but she is fine. However, she is extremely pissed at what this village has done to her son and has said that the ones responsible will pay dearly for it, even if it means turning all of Konoha into a smoldering crater. He replied as Naruto woke up. Gigi, what's going on, and why am I not dead? He asked. Naruto-kun, good to see you up, my boy. How do you feel? Hiruzen asked. I'm fine, angry but fine, he replied. Hiruzen flinched at that statement, hoping his surrogate grandson wasn't angry with him for lying to him all these years, as a happy shout rang throughout the room. Akane-chan. Kaharu-ba-chan. Naruto shouted as gave them both hugs. Naruto-kun, are you okay? Kaharu asked. No, I'm not. Stupid villagers were being mean to me again, he shouted. Just because Kyuubi was sealed inside me doesn't mean they should hurt me, he said with tears in his eyes. I know, kiddo. But you're here and you're okay, and that is all that matters. She said as she hugged him tight. Everyone who saw this was smiling and started tearing up as they watched the touching scene before them. Gigi, who are these other people and why are they looking at me like they know me? He asked. His Gigi went into the long story about who the newcomers were and how he had standing marriage contracts with the other young ladies when he came of age courtesy of his mother. Naruto also found out about his mother, what happened to her and why she wasn't there, and surprisingly he wasn't mad. He was also told of his father's treachery against him and his mother and immediately hugged his grandmother. Midoriko Ba-chan, I'm sorry dad hurt you and Ka-chan. He said. It's okay Naru-chan, he got what was coming to him. She said, your mother can't wait to meet you, neither can your sisters. His eyes went at that statement. My Ka-san, and my sisters. Yes, here's a picture. She said, pulling him into her lap as she showed him a picture. See, this pretty lady here with the white hair is your mom Kagaya, the other young woman with long black hair is your stepsister Naruko, and the little girl with long red in a ponytail is your little sister Natsumi. She said, who are these people? He asked. Well, let's see. The tall and short young ladies with black hair are your aunts Karen and Kukaku Shiba, and the one with auburn hair is your aunt Yuzu, the man next to her is your uncle Ishin, the woman next to him is his wife and your aunt Masaki, the woman next to her with black hair is your cousin Soifin, and finally the woman next to her with long purple hair is your Ichi Shihoin, one of your fiancés. She replied. She's pretty. He replied with a noticeable blush. Indeed, she is. She replied with a chuckle. Madara, who had left the room with an ANBU to get Naruto's things, had just returned. Naruto-kun, are you ready to go? We have a lot of training to do and you have family to meet. He said. Madara, how long will you be gone? Hiruzen asked. We will be gone for 6 years so he can take the academy graduation exam when he returns. However, before we leave, we are first making a quick stop at Otsutsuki Manor. Any of you who wish are welcome to join us. He replied. Hokage-sama, I have a gift for you and Kaharu if you'll allow me. Akane said, getting a nod in response. Because the two of you cared for Naru-kun as much as you did, I wish to reverse your aging back to your prime. She said, touching their shoulders as a red glow lit up the room. When she was finished, Kaharu and Hokage looked to be in their early 30s. After show and tell was over, everyone except Kaharu and the Hokage said their goodbyes and went back home while the remaining two followed Naruto and his family to Otsutsuki Manor. Once there, everyone was led to the weapons vault where they saw katana lining the walls. Kaharu, Hiruzen, as a reward for your dedication and caring towards my nephew, you each are permitted one blade from this room. However, do not try to force a connection. These swords are sentient and they will make the choice based on your own abilities. In fact, some of these blades can even bestow upon their chosen master a Kekkei Genkei if the right elemental affinities are present, so just walk throughout the room and if you hear a name being said, speak it aloud so a connection can be made. Madara said as they began to walk around the room. It wasn't long before Kaharu had her chosen blade as said blade approached her, the handle crackling with lightning. Blow my enemies away. Arashi no Ojo, Storm Princess, she intoned as she collapsed as her lightning and water affinities enveloped her bodies. Next it was Hiruzen's to choose his blade. He had extremely high affinities with fire and earth, so any blade he received would probably be an earth blade, fire blade, or a combination of the two. Like Kaharu, a blade lit up a bright reddish-orange color and presented itself to him. Smother all of creation in molten rock, Kazan no Kami, volcano god, he intoned, and shortly after he collapsed just as Kaharu did. Madara Oji-chan, are Gigi and Kaharu Ba-chan okay? Naruto asked, giving his uncle a pleading look. With a smile and a ruffle of his nephew's hair he said, yes Naruto-kun, they are just fine. The act of being chosen by their blades has given them both a Kekkei Genkei, and while their bodies get used to the changes, they are unconscious to prevent them from feeling any discomfort due to said changes, but they should wake up any minute. Will that happen to me? Naruto asked. No kiddo, it won't. It isn't needed as the Kekkei Genkei you activated earlier this evening gives you access to those bloodlines and several more like it. Madara replied. While we wait for them to awaken, why don't you go and pick your own? Naruto nodded and ran off. A few moments later Naruto returned with 7 blades cradled in his arms. That was fast. His uncle said. Was I supposed to be slower? Did I do something wrong? Naruto said. No, Naru-kun. Your uncle just means that no one has ever done that as fast as you. Akane said. Which blades chose you? Let's see. The big black one is Zangetsu ni, the Daisho pair is Kaden Kyokutsu-chan, the short sword with the tassel at the end is Benihime-chan, the red one is Senbon Yum-chan, the Wakizashi is Ryukatse-chan, the ice blue blade is Kori no Ryu or Kori-chan, and the last one is Tenhai no Tori, Heavenly Fire Bird, or Tori-chan. He said with a grin on his face. You don't do anything half-assed, do you, Naruto-kun? Madara asked with a smile. I guess not. The boy replied with a foxy grin. About that time Hiruzen and Kaharu woke up. Gigi. Kaharu ba-chan. Are you okay? He asked. We are just fine, Naruto-kun. We just had a lot of training to do and our new swords had a lot of information to pass on to us just as yours will for you. Kaharu said as they all left Otsutsuki Manor and headed back to the Hokage's office with Hiruzen and Kaharu under a henge. Madara, when I see you all in 6 years, I expect Naruto-kun to be a fine young shinobi, and Naruto do everything they tell you and come back to us a strong young man. He said. Okay, Gigi. Naruto gave him a hug and disappeared with his family. Hokage-sama, I have marriage contracts for Yugao Azuki, the Yamanaka clan, Sum and Hana Inosuka, Kurenai, Enko and the Hyuga clan that I wish to file with this office at their request between themselves and Naruto's clan the Otsutsuki. These contracts have been signed by the parties involved and Naruto's mother Kagaya Otsutsuki and witnessed by myself. Kaharu said. Very well, they have been so entered and until further notice they will be kept under lock and key. Hi, Hokage-sama. She replied. Naruto and his family had just left Konoha when his uncle and grandmother sat him down and told him everything about what his father and Minato's father had done to their family. Flashback no Jutsu. Naruto-kun, I know you are wondering why your father isn't held in very high regard with your grandmother and your Gigi back home. It is because Minato and his father did some very bad things. Madara said. Like what? Naruto asked. Naru-chan, Minato's father, your grandfather was a deceiver and a liar. When he saw that I was an Uchiha he used a Fuinjutsu to cast a powerful genjutsu on me called Jigoku no Yona Sakai non or Nirvana of a hellish worldscape. He did this to restart the Namikaze clan with Uchiha genes to be the ultimate clan of Fuinjutsu users. However, what he didn't realize is that the Uzumaki and Otsutsuki would always outclass him in the areas of Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu. When your uncle came to check on me, he saw that I was happy, so he left me alone but, in my head, I was screaming for him to come back and release me from this hell. Midoriko said, stopping as Madara took over. Naruto-kun, I left at first thinking everything was alright but soon after came back as my instincts were screaming at me to return. When I did return, she had just given birth to a boy. I saw a seal on the back of her neck and immediately I knew what it was. Soon after, I killed almost every member of the Namikaze clan while they slept and removed the seal on your grandmother's neck and awoke her from the genjutsu. I was immediately wrapped in a hug as she was overjoyed to see me and she refused to let go. It was sometime later that all her memories returned and we learned what that bastard Namikaze did to her. Madara said. Kato, that bastard. Not only did he cast that genjutsu on me but I was forced to watch from inside my own mind as he raped me and forced me to carry his spawn. When your granduncle arrived, he used his Fuinjutsu knowledge which was on par with Akashi Uzumaki, his mentor in Fuinjutsu and head of Uzumaki clan at that time, to permanently seal any chance of Minato unlocking the Sharingan. I didn't want that bastard Kato to get the satisfaction of thinking he accomplished his goal. And so, after carrying Minato into the house and putting him into his crib, my brother and I left a note for Kato's parents detailing everything that happened and left the little bastard for them to raise. It was years later that I learned that Minato had married your mother, and needless to say I wasn't surprised what he tried to do when sealing Akane-chan. She said, "What did he try to do?" Naruto asked. "The little bastard tried to use your mother and your unborn little sister as sacrifices to the Shinigami for sealing Akane-chan into you. That didn't go over too well with the Shinigami, who is by the way your grand aunt on your mother's side, and the goddess Amaterasu is your grandmother, speaking of whom," she said as a bright flash lit up the clearing. Before them stood Kagaya, Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, Susanoo, Inari and Jiraiya. "Ka-chan," Naruto shouted as he ran to hug his mother. "Sochi, I missed you so much. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you growing up, but giving birth to you and your sister and dealing with your idiot father's machinations was extremely tiring. But enough of that, I have some people I want you to meet," she said. "This is my mother Amaterasu, goddess of the sun and universe, or Kami as humans call her. She is your grandmother. To her right is the goddess of the moon, my aunt and your grandaunt Tsukuyomi. To her right is my uncle and your granduncle Susanoo, god of storms. To his right is our cousin, god of foxes, fertility and learning, Inari, and to his right is your godfather Jiraiya, the toad sage." As she finished the introductions, the rest of his family all gave him hugs, which he joyfully returned, and gifts. The gods each gave him their blessing, and Jiraiya gave him a scroll. "Jiraiya Jii-chan, what is this?" he asked. "That kiddo is a scroll-filled jutsu scrolls and you idiot father's signature techniques, all of which I will teach you and your sister, also the toad summoning contract for both of you to sign if you want," he replied with a warm smile, only to receive a hug in return from his godson. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," was Naruto's excited reply. "You're welcome, kiddo. Now let's get to Uzu so you can meet your sisters, your fiancé Yoruichi, and start your training," he said as they all conversed and talked about his training and what expected of him both during and after. As they walked into Uzu a week later, they were in awe at what they were seeing. 3/4 of Uzu was still in ruins, but the remaining fourth was a huge compound with training grounds and a massive jutsu vault. All in all, the whole thing was so big that the Uchiha and Hyuga compounds could fit inside comfortably. "Oni-chan!" A gleeful shout was heard as they walked into the compound, as Naruto was soon tackled to the ground. The little girl soon looked up with a big grin on her face as Naruto soon realized who she was. "Natsumi-chan?" he asked, unsure. "Hi, Oni-chan," she replied as Naruto hugged her for dear life. Once the two were acquainted, Yoruichi introduced herself and hugged her fiancé, which was happily returned. Soon after, Naruto introduced herself as well as the other members of his extended family from the picture he was shown, and then they got to work discussing his and his sister's training. "Naruto-kun, you and Natsumi's training will look something like this," Madara said, holding up a chart. Year 1. Physical conditioning. Chakra control. Year 2. Chakra control and physical conditioning with weights starting at 20 pounds on each limb. Gravity and resistance seals at level 1. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu E, D ranks. Fuinjutsu. Kenjutsu, Zanjutsu, basically the same thing I know, but in this instance two different styles, one passive and one aggressive. Kido. Taijutsu. Hakuda. Ho-Ho. Zanpakuto Communication 101. Year 3. Start using shadow clones while training no more than 500 clones. Chakra control and physical conditioning with weights 40 pounds on each limb. Gravity and resistance seals at level 2. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu E, D and C ranks. Fuinjutsu Intermediate. Kenjutsu, Zanjutsu Intermediate. Kido Intermediate. Taijutsu Intermediate. Hakuda Intermediate. Ho-Ho Intermediate. Zanpakuto Training for Beginners Original plus 6 clones. Year 4. Training using shadow clones increased from 500 to 1500. Chakra control and physical conditioning with weights 80 pounds on each limb. Gravity and resistance seals at level 4. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu E, D, C and B ranks. Fuinjutsu Intermediate. Kenjutsu, Zanjutsu Intermediate. Kido Intermediate. Taijutsu Intermediate. Hakuda Intermediate. Ho-Ho Intermediate. Zanpaku 2 Training Intermediate Original plus 6 clones. Year 5. Training using shadow clones increased from 1500 to 5000. Chakra control and physical conditioning with weights 160 pounds on each limb. Gravity and resistance seals at level 5. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu E, D, C, B, A and S ranks. Fuinjutsu Expert. Kenjutsu, Zanjutsu Expert. Kido Expert No Incantation. Taijutsu Expert. Hakuda Expert. Ho-Ho Expert. Zanpaku 2 Training Expert Original only with all 7 blades. Year 6. Training using shadow clones increased from 5000 to 10,000. Chakra control and physical conditioning with weights 320 pounds on each limb. Gravity and resistance seals at level 7. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu Master E, D, C, B, A, S and SS ranks. Fuinjutsu Master. Kenjutsu, Zanjutsu Master. Kido Master No Incantation able to keep power output constant. Taijutsu Master. Hakuda Master. Ho-Ho Master. Zanpaku 2 Training Master all 7 blades. Everyone heard a whistle and turned to Jiraiya. That's crazy Madara. Don't you think that is a little extreme? He said. Not really, since he already promised to come back strong, not to mention the fact that he needs this kind of extreme training to master his Kekemora Dojutsu the Ryugan and all its variants. Madara replied. Madara-ji-chan. What's the Ryugan? Naruto asked. Well Naruto-kun, the Ryugan is a variant of your mother's Rinne Sharingan and you activated it during your last beating at the hands of the villagers but you cannot control it. Ryugan means dragon's eye and it possesses the powers of not only the Rinnegan but also the Sharingan and the Byakugan as well. It even has a Mangekyo, an eternal Mangekyo form like the Sharingan and the Byakugan, and your sister Natsumi has her own variant as well, or she could get your mother's Rinne Sharingan. He said. Wow. Enough talk. Let's get training, old man. Naruto shouted as he and his sister ran off to the training ground like a couple of speeding bullets from a gun, causing everyone to laugh and follow. Everyone knew the next 6 years would be more than a little interesting. 5 years later, Naruto and Natsumi's training had gone better than everyone hoped. Instead of taking the full 6 years to master what the others had to teach them, they did it in 5 and spent the rest of the final year traveling and refining everything they learned before making their way towards High no Kuni and Konoha. He and his sister not only mastered their bloodline, which in Natsumi's case was the Rinne Sharingan, but they almost mastered their Zanpaku 2 as well. In Naruto's case, most of them, he had mastered Zangetsu, Senbon Yume, Kaden Kyokutsu, Benihime and Kori no Ryu. Ryukatse and Tenhai no Tori had told him that due to the fact that they were the most powerful multi-elemental and fire elemental blades in existence, mastering them would take longer, at least another year and a half, but it largely depended on him. But they were honestly unsure due to the fact that his powers had not yet matured to the point where they could gauge them properly, which he was fine with, saying he wasn't in any hurry, that he was strong enough for now. He had figured out some tag team techniques with his sister using his wind element technique combined with Natsumi's Tobiame to make them all more powerful, which they were both giddy over. During their training, Naruto and Natsumi were given many contracts to sign: the Toads by Jiraiya, the Fox contract by Akane, the Tiger contract by their mother, the Wolf contract by Kikyo, and finally the Dragon contract by Susanoo. To say that they were ecstatic would be an understatement. They were elated to know that 4 of the 5 contracts they signed were 4 of the 5 legendary contracts that only the most worthy were allowed to sign, with the only one missing being the Phoenix contract, which they vowed to find and sign. Now normally one person, let alone 2, wouldn't be allowed to sign so many contracts due to contractual conflicts, because only one contract can be signed by one person at a time, but because of their bloodline and being the offspring of Kagaya Otsutsuki and the grandchildren of Amaterasu and the niece and nephew of so many others, the summons already saw them as worthy summoners. As such, each of the boss summons gave them each a tattoo that could be used instead of using hand signs. Flashback no Jutsu. Natsumi, Naruto, come here for a second. Jiraiya called out. Hi sensei. They replied and came running. Good now. You two have done so well that we've decided to give you summoning contracts, but not just one, you're getting 5. From me you're getting the toad contract. From Akane you're getting the fox, and as Akane has already given her permission being the boss, she is allowing you to sign the contract. From your Kikyo you're getting the wolf contract for the same reasons as Akane. From your mother you're getting the tiger contract, and from your uncle Susanoo you're getting the dragon contract. The first contracts they signed were the fox and the wolf to get them out of the way when a large cloud of smoke appeared. Who dares sign our contracts with another contract signed? 2 voices bellowed. We do. I am Naruto Otsutsuki and this is my sister Natsumi. Naruto replied. Otsutsuki as in Kagaya Otsutsuki? The wolf asked. The very same. Natsumi replied. They looked up and saw their bosses standing there. Akane-sama. Kikyo-sama. What are you doing here? We have been looking for you for years. They shouted. Well, I was sealed in the moon for about 20 years with Kagaya-chan and then released by the gods and then spent the rest of that time with them in their realm after being given the title and rank of wolf demon goddess, so now I am passing down the title of boss of the wolf summons clan to you Chiharu, as I can't be a summons and a goddess at the same time, so I will be living with my future husband from now on. Kikyo said as the young 9-tailed wolf grew her 10th tail, smiling happily at her former leader. The same could be said of me Azami, as I was given an immortal flesh and blood body so I could have a fresh start with my future husband, and when Naru-kun decides to stop being a shinobi, he and his sister have a standing invitation to become gods if they choose. That being said, I am giving you your 9th tail and passing on my title and seat as the boss of the Fox Summons clan to you. Congratulations Zami-chan. Akane said as a bright light lit up the area as Azami grew her 9th tail, but something else happened that no one was expecting. As Akane gave Azami her 9th tail, the god of foxes decided to give Akane her 10th tail. This had never happened before, as there had never been more than 2 Jubi, let alone 3. Akane was the 10-tailed vixen and Naruto, due to being Kagaya's son and Akane's Jinchuriki until recently, and who also had demonic and divine blood since birth like his sister, was the Jubi no Yoko, but that was something both he and Akane were going to keep under wraps until the right time, or until they got back to Konoha and use it to really with people for shits and giggles, whichever came first. Azami and Chiharu looked at one another, nodded their heads, and then looked at Naruto and his sister. Naruto-kun, Natsumi-chan, we have been without a decent summoner for so long, so we will allow this, but do not dishonor us with the same arrogance as that bastard Izuna Uchiha. He tried to control us into attacking innocent people, and when that happened we severed all forms of contact with the human world. Do not disappoint us young ones, understand? Chiharu said in her wolf form, towering over him and Natsumi as she grinned, showing all her sharp bright white teeth. Kozo kid, boy or brat, understand this. If you or your sister attempt what he did, you so much as think about doing it, and we find out we don't care whose husband or sister-in-law you are, not only will we sever ties with you, but we will kill you, chop you into little pieces, and take you back to 5-Den Mountain and feed you to our children, understand? Azami said, doing the same as Chiharu. Yes, we understand. However, the two of you should understand that after the kind of life I've had, I don't take kindly to threats. He said as his spiritual pressure flared to life, weighing down on them. That being said, if you so much as touch anyone I care about for any reason, I suggest you tunnel yourself into another dimension to hide, because nothing short of that will keep you safe from me. He said with Natsumi nodding her head in agreement. All right kids, you pass. Chiharu said. What? Naruto and Natsumi said, confused. You passed. You see Naruto-kun, after our problems with Izuna we didn't completely cut ourselves off from the human world, but we did hide our contract somewhere only the bosses or the gods could find. And after that we came up with a plan to test the next summoner to see if he was worthy, and judging from the look in your eyes when you threatened us, we saw that you cared more for your precious people than yourself, therefore we find you worthy of being our summoner. Summon us if you need help. Good luck Naruto-kun. Azami said before she and Chiharu went back to Five Den Mountain. After that he and Natsumi signed the remaining 3 contracts and were given various tests they had to pass to be accepted as summoners. For the toads it was a test of resolve. For the tigers it was a test of courage. Finally, for the dragons it was a test of intellect. All of which he and his sister passed with flying colors. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. Now we find our heroes and their loved ones on a road headed towards Takigakure as they had to pass through waterfall country to get to Hai no Kuni and Konoha. About 10 miles outside of the village they saw an explosion and heard a woman scream. Naruto and Natsumi run towards the sound and are stopped by 2 Taki Anbu. Halt. Leave this area at once. The business of our village does not concern outsiders. A Taki Anbu said. You are beating a young girl, so we are making it our business. Naruto and Natsumi said, drawing their blades. You have 5 seconds to stop what you are doing and back away from the girl or I will kill you. Natsumi said. TCH, get out of here you demon lovers. The Anbu shouted as he drew a kunai and rushed the 2 demonic twins. You got that wrong, we aren't demon lovers, we are demons, you ignorant fool. Naruto said as he and Natsumi revealed their demonic features. Naruto showed that he had blood-red ears and 10 fox tails with platinum blonde tips. His sister Natsumi had platinum blonde wolf ears and 8 tails with purple tips. Well, look here boys, more demons for us to kill. Hold still freak, I will try and put you out of your misery as slowly and painfully as possible. Then the boys and I will have some fun with your women once we are done breaking them, they will be our personal toys. The Anbu said. Now anyone that knew Naruto knew that was something that you just didn't say in front of him. Oh no, here we go, you really shouldn't have said that. Yoruichi said. Why not babe? You are gonna be my woman after we kill these 3 demons. A random Taki Nin replied. I doubt that. For one thing I can tell by your posture and how you carry yourself that you like your friends or that has never had a real woman before, so I know for a fact that you could never satisfy me. Naruto-kun has many times and it felt so good. Yoruichi replied with a lustful grin as she hugged Naruto from behind. Naruto stepped forward, unsheathed his blade and said, Okiro, Benihime. You idiots will not live past today. He said and vanished only to appear a few seconds later sheathing his blade with a click as 3 of the Taki Nin all fell to pieces. Snap! Tobiame. Natsumi said, releasing her blade and launching a fireball at the 3 remaining Taki Nin. Futon. Datapa. She said as the wind combined with Tobiame's attack caused an explosion that turned her enemies to ash. They then walked over to the young woman that was being abused. Excuse me miss, are you okay? He asked. She instantly backed up screaming, no stop. I've done nothing wrong, don't hurt me anymore. Hey relax. I won't hurt you. Come on, let's get you looked at and get you home. He said holding out his hand as she timidly took hold of it and him in a strong embrace shaking the entire time. He took her to his mother so she could be healed. Ka-chan, can you help this young woman? She is a ninja and her comrades were beating her for fun. Of course, Sochi. Now come here dear and lay down. Kagaya said as she began to heal her. Tell me, young one, what is your name? My name is Fu, she said. Well Fu-chan, as soon as we get you healed, we will get you home okay? She said. No, don't send me back to Taki anywhere but there. She said with fearful tear-soaked eyes. Tell me Fu-chan, did they hurt you in Taki? She asked. They did more than just hurt me. She said looking down at her crotch. Fu-chan, did they rape you? Midoriko asked as Fu nodded and began to cry. Our village leader, a man named Shibuki, told the villagers they could do whatever they wanted to me. The bastard even took his own turn, but thanks to Shumei-chan the damage was reversed, my hymen restored and the pregnancy was aborted before the fetus even had a heartbeat. Fu said. Excuse me Fu-chan, I'll be right back. Midoriko said. A few moments later Midoriko found herself standing in the middle of Taki. Can I help you stranger? Shibuki said. Yes, you can die for me. Collaboration Kaden, Mijin Bunri, particle separator. She said, jumping into the air and launching a ball the size of a softball at the center of Taki before using flash step to outrun the blast. The moment the ball hit Shibuki, it exploded with enough force to leave nothing but an empty crater in its wake, wiping Taki off the map. What she didn't know was that deep underground is where the real hidden village was, and what was on the surface was just for show, and everyone she killed were nothing more than blood clones, so in the end she basically destroyed an empty village which would be rebuilt in the coming months. After Naruto and crew left Taki, they passed through Tanzaku-gai. It was then that Jiraiya glimpsed someone he hadn't seen in years. Nay, Jiraiya-sensei, is something wrong? Naruto and Natsumi asked. See that woman over there? The one with the long blonde hair and wearing the green haori? He asked, only to receive a nod from his students. Well, you see, that woman is Tsunade. She is one of Naruto's fiancées and she thinks he is dead thanks to Danzo Shimura sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. He replied. What happened, sensei? Naruto asked. Well, Naruto, the day you and your sister were born 14 years ago, a lot of information came to light, mostly concerning your father and his machinations concerning the two of you. Anyway, once the 9 tails was sealed, Danzo sent one of his root Anbu to Tsunade and his fiancée Inkiri, a beautiful woman named Mai Terumi, to inform them that you were dead, all so he could turn you into a weapon. As he felt a Jinchuriki had no right to a family or happiness. Needless to say, I was pissed. He even tried the same tactic against my daughter, but I kept her in the loop so she knew it was complete bullshit, and about a year ago I contacted May and told her, as well as the Kiri civil war had ended, so now she knows as well, but I did tell her to play it off until she comes to the Chunin exams in Konoha in 6 months, so don't be surprised if she walks up to you and sticks her tongue down your throat. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must also inform a certain slug princess, no doubt she will be pissed. He said. No, May will not be Mizukage. I am giving that title to Zabuza. Tsunade. Jiraiya shouted, getting her and Shizune's attention. Jiraiya, what the hell are you doing here? If the old monkey wants me back in Konoha, the answer is no. That place has taken too much from me to return now. She said. Tsunade, I'd be lying if I told you he didn't want you back in the village, but that isn't why I'm here. I am here today to speak with you and Shizune privately. It is important. He said in a tone that gave no room for argument as Tsunade showed him to her hotel room with Shizune and Tonton following close behind. As they entered Tsunade's hotel room, they all sat down around the table. All right, now talk, Tsunade demanded. Very well. But first I need the two of you to understand that sensei and I kept many secrets from you, not because we didn't trust you, it was everyone else we didn't trust. He said, handing her a scroll. As she and Shizune began to read, her eyes went wide. Are you serious, Jiraiya? Minato tried to use his own children as a sacrifice to the Shinigami, but why his children, especially our Naru-kun, were already dead, so what would the Shinigami want with dead children? Unless... She stopped as she and Shizune looked at Jiraiya. The answer they both had hoped for could be seen in his eyes. That's right, Tsunade. Naruto, Natsumi and Kagaya are all very much alive. However, before the two of you blow a fuse, neither sensei nor myself sent those Anbu to tell you they died. That was Danzo and Homura's doing, and the only reasons we didn't tell you until now were because we were protecting you from them, and every time we found you, you both went off the grid less than 12 hours later. Do you have any idea how irritating it is trying to find someone that doesn't want to be found? He said, only to receive a tear-filled hug from both ladies. So, are they here with you? They asked, overjoyed to see Kagaya, Natsumi and their mutual fiancé. Indeed, they are in a shared hotel room in the next hotel. He replied as they tried to run him over to get to him. Wait, you don't know which room? I'll take you to him. Jiraiya led them to the room and opened the door and was about to usher them in until Tsunade pushed her way past him and immediately locked eyes with Kagaya. Kagu-chan. She and Shizune said with tears in their eyes and with speed no one knew they had both women embraced Kagaya in a tearful reunion. Shish. Shish. It's okay Su-chan, Shizu-chan. Kagaya said. No, it's not. If only we hadn't believed those wrinkled old prunes, we could have been there for Naru-kun and Natsumi-chan but we weren't and he suffered for it and I don't know if he will ever forgive us. Tsunade said. Well, Su-chan, Shizu-chan why don't you turn around and ask him? Kagaya said. As she and Shizune turned around as Naruto and one of his shadow clones planted a very long loving kiss on both Tsunade and Shizune receiving a lustful moan from each woman. Does that answer your question Su-chan, Shizu-chan? The two of you thought I was dead thanks to Homura and Danzo. I cannot now nor ever blame you for their stupidity now I believe my sister is waiting for her turn at a hug. He said as his sister threw him out of the way and did the same with her clones only brought the two into a vice-like hug which the two older ladies gladly returned. Well Tsunade, now that you and Shizune know the truth will you return to Konoha or stay here wallowing in self-pity? Jiraiya asked. No, we are going home. Tsunade said they all packed their things and made the return trip to Konoha. 5 hours later a mile outside Konoha's west gate. Su-chan, what will you and Shizune-chan do when we get back to the village? Natsumi asked. Well, the old monkey will most likely ask me to be Hokage and I will agree, that way I can be close to my Naru-kun and keep the vultures away from him. She replied. Su-chan, there is something you and Jiraiya don't know. Hokage Gigi and Kaharu Ba-chan had their aging reversed by Akane-chan so now they are back in their prime so that is unlikely at least for now. Naruto said. Wait so those two are 10 years younger? She asked. Try 30 years younger. Akane said. I didn't know you could do that Akane-chan. Tsunade said. Well there is a lot of things demons can do you didn't know of especially me as the 10-tailed vixen and the queen of foxes and future queen of demons. She replied. Wait, so you're the queen of foxes and future queen of demons how does that work? Shizune asked. Quite simple. Naruto is king of demons by virtue of being Kagaya's son and a 10-tailed kitsune himself and when he marks me as his mate, I will be the queen of demons as will Kikyo, Shizune yourself and anyone else he is engaged to. Akane replied with a grin. Just then they reached Konoha's gate and were confronted with Izumo and Katetsu Konoha's eternal gate guardians. Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama you've returned. They asked excitedly. Indeed, I have, informed the Hokage to call a council meeting at once. She ordered. Yes ma'am, they replied while Madara and Midoriko headed for the Otsutsuki estate. Meanwhile Tsunade, Jiraiya, Naruto, Natsumi arrived at the Hokage's office and saw Hiruzen and Kaharu sitting and drinking tea as Hiruzen's clones were doing his paperwork. Sensei. Kaharu. Tsunade exclaimed as she gave the two of them a hug. Ah, Tsunade-chan, Shizune-chan you've returned. Hiruzen stated. Yes Hokage-sama, we have Naruto-kun and Jiraiya-sama to thank for that. Shizune said. That is good news I trust you'll be staying a while then. Kaharu said. Yes, I'm home for good. Tsunade replied. That's good because after the Chunin exams I am appointing you as my successor. I may have had my aging reversed thanks to Akane-chan but being Hokage has taken me away from my family for far too long and I need to get back to being a grandfather and a father. He said. That is all well and good Hiruzen but I think you're putting the cart before the horse. Kaharu said. What do you mean? He asked. First you and I need to deal with Homura, Danzo and the civilian council. She replied. You're right but first things first Jiraiya how strong is Naruto-kun? He asked. Let me put it this way. Not even the 5 Kages and Hanzo the salamander combined could defeat him at full power. As is, due to a seal given to him by Yoriichi called the Gente Kaijo he only has access to 15% of his maximum power but even that much used correctly could take down a high Anbu to low cage level fighter without much effort. Jiraiya said. Unbelievable, he got that strong in 6 years. Kaharu said. Less. He got that strong in 5 and Natsumi-chan is not that far behind. Give her another 6 to 12 months and she'll be his equal. We stopped their training early and decided to start the journey home. Naruto and Natsumi just used the last year to train and refine what they were taught to the max. Jiraiya said. Incredible. Well, no time like the present. Naruto, Natsumi, I want you to take this note to Iruka Yumino in ERM 201. He'll understand. Hiruzen said. Okay, Gigi, but one thing though. I suggest not pairing me with either Sasuke Uchiha, Negi Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka and Kakashi Hatake or they will die. He said with cold eyes as a shiver went down the spines of everyone present. I understand your feelings about them, but restrain yourself, Naruto-kun, otherwise you'll make things difficult for us in the future. Wait until they do something against you, your loved ones or the village, then you can go nuts. His Gigi replied only to get a pout and disappointing nod from Naruto before he and his sister left. Naruto and Natsumi were walking down the hall of the academy when they came upon their destination. Well, Natsumi-chan, here it is, room 201, you ready? His asked. As ready as ever, Ni-chan. She replied as they opened the door to the classroom. Hello, my name is Iruka Yumino, can I help you too? The now identified teacher asked as Naruto handed him the note from the Hokage. Very well, you two, welcome. He said with a smile. Would you mind introducing yourselves? My name is Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha Senju Otsutsuki. I like my family, friends, training, creating new techniques, ramen and dango. I hate arrogant fools, most of the civilian and elder council as well as most of Konoha for ruining my childhood. My name is Natsumi Uzumaki Uchiha Senju Otsutsuki. My likes and dislikes are the same as my brother. They said. Naruto-kun. Ino, Hinata and Satomi Hyuga shouted as they launched themselves at Naruto for a group hug. Ino-chan, Hinata-chan, Satomi-chan, it'd been a while, glad to know you didn't forget me. He said. We would never forget you, Naruto-kun, we love you too much. Hinata said, snuggling into his chest. Yeah, you're our best friend and our fiancé, no way we'd ever forget about you. Ino said with Satomi nodding in agreement. Some of the male students glared at Naruto but kept their mouths shut, all except one. Hey, get away from Hinata-chan, she's mine. The boy said. And who are you to say such things? Naruto asked. I'm Kiba Inuzuka, the only alpha male in the village, and Hinata is my woman, so get away from her. He yelled. Just as Naruto was about to respond to the insult levied against Hinata, she beat him to it. Kiba, I am not your woman and I will never be your woman. You are just a filthy mutt that doesn't know his place, stay away from me. Kiba and everyone else was shocked at Hinata's outburst, as they had never heard the kind timid girl be so rude before. Just as everyone had gotten over their shock, Sasuke decided to make his presence known. If you won't give Kiba a shot with you, how about me? You're strong enough to help me rebuild my clan. He said with an arrogant smirk. Sasuke Tem, if Hinata wouldn't give Kiba a shot, it's doubtful she would give an arrogant little snot like you one. Her sister Satomi said. You little insect. Sasuke screamed as he began going through hand signs. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Everyone was shocked that he did that, and just before the fireball hit its target, Naruto made his move. Bakudo number 81 Danku. Naruto's smooth voice intoned. When the dust settled, all anyone saw was a clear shield between Sasuke, Hinata, Ino and Satomi. Ino-chan, Hinata-chan, Satomi-chan, are you okay? Naruto asked. We're fine, Naruto-kun, but what is that? They asked. This is one of my defensive techniques called Danku. He replied. That power, why does a no-class loser like him have it? I'm an Uchiha elite, that power should be mine so I can kill my brother. I'll demand he teach me it and all his techniques. After all, such power belongs to me, an Uchiha elite, not some no-name clan-less loser. Sasuke thought. As Naruto helped Hinata up, Sasuke made his presence known. Hey Dobi, what was that jutsu you used? Sasuke demanded. Teach me now. It belongs to the Uchiha as only an Uchiha can use a jutsu that powerful properly. He shouted as he reached for a kunai only to be kicked away by Naruto. What happened next shocked everyone. Bakudo number 62 Hyaporankan. He shouted as 100 bars of white light pinned him to the wall. Dobi. What the hell did you do to me? I demand you release me. Sasuke shouted. Silence. You ignorant little fool. Do you honestly believe your last name entitles you to everything you want? Ha, ha, you're just as stupid as those little fangirls. Naruto shouted. The council will hear of this, they'll make you turn over all your techniques. Sasuke said with a smirk. Oh really? Please by all means tell your precious council, I'll tell them the same thing I'm fixing to tell you, off. Naruto said with a grin. Alright Naruto, you've made your point, now release Sasuke. Iruka said. Yes sensei. Naruto said, snapping his fingers, releasing the technique. Sasuke dropped to the floor and glared at Naruto. This isn't over Dobi, he said. It had better be, or next time I will kill you. I don't care if you're a leaf shinobi or an Uchiha. Naruto said as he grinned and flared his power before returning to his seat. Okay everyone, now we will begin the genin exam. The first part is a written exam. Iruka said as his assistant Mizuki passed out the exam. As Mizuki got to Naruto, he gave him his exam with a sneer on his face, which Naruto caught, but he also discovered the genjutsu on the page as he took his exam. It took him all of 10 minutes to complete the exam, so he kicked back and relaxed for the next 50 minutes. Alright everyone, pencils down. Iruka said as he and Mizuki collected everyone's test, but when Iruka got to Naruto and collected his test, he was shocked. Naruto, this is a Jonin exam, where did you get this? A Jonin exam, really? This was the paper Mizuki sensei handed me, though I had to get rid of a genjutsu that was cast over it before answering any questions. He replied. Iruka turned and glared at Mizuki and said, we will discuss this later. All right everyone, outside to the target range. He said. When your name is called, step to the line, pick up 5 shuriken and 5 kunai and throw them at the targets. Iruka said, An. The rest of the test happened exactly as in the manga anime, so I won't bother writing it. When the test was over, Sasuke made a beeline for the elders and the civilian council chambers. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office, Kikyo, Akane, Yoruichi, Kagaya, Midoriko and Madara had arrived to give their reports about their students to the Hokage. Kikyo, Akane, Yoruichi, Kagaya, Midoriko, Madara, it's good to see you again after 6 long years, so tell me what's new. Hiruzen asked. So much that none of us know where to start. Yoruichi said. How about the beginning? That's always a good place. Jiraiya quipped, only to get smacked in the back of the head by Tsunade. Very funny Toad, just wait till I tell your wife, you'll never again know the pleasure of her feeling of her heavenly mounds as they are squished against your chest. She replied. Jiraiya immediately paled hearing this and begged her not to say anything. Yoruichi grinned that Cheshire grin she was famous for and began giving her report, which being a goddess wasn't required as she didn't answer to him, but considering how her future husband considered him to be his grandfather and since she also respected him, she did so anyway. Well Hiruzen, since you already know about Naru-kun's and Natsumi-chan's progress, telling you about it is a moot point. However, I will say due to their own ignorance, Taki is currently nothing more than a dust-filled crater. She said as Hiruzen and Kaharu paled. Explain now, he exclaimed. It is quite simple. On our way home this week we passed by Takigakure and Naruto happened to come upon the Jinchuriki of the 7 tails, this young lady right here being beaten mercilessly by ninja from her own village. She said, pointing to Fu. After Kagaya healed her of her injuries and returned her purity, I made my way to the village and proceeded to kill every last ninja I could find and then level the village. Midoriko said, taking over the explanation. Hiruzen, there is something I think you should know. Kagaya said. Which is? He replied. The members of the Uchiha clan that didn't want to take part in the coup d'etat 8 years ago are still very much alive. She said, shocking everyone there. What? Hiruzen shouted. Yes. About 6 months before the massacre happened, Makoto and the elders came to me seeking my aid to stop Fugaku, his whore, and the rest of the clan from doing what they were planning, and so I did, although not in the way she expected. The clan had approximately 400 members in total, 325 of which were shinobi and the remaining 75 were civilian. Of those 400 members, I replaced approximately 157, totaling all the civilians, and 82 Uchiha shinobi with blood clones. After that, I sat back and watched while Itachi and Izumi mopped up the remaining 243 clan members. However, I harvested most of the Sharingan that were left for transplantation purposes in case needed. Even Shisui Uchiha is still alive, as he used his abilities in Shunshin to get to Otsutsuki Manor before Danzo could steal both his eyes. Sadly, he did get one, but that is no longer of any consequence. Kagaya said. So that many Uchiha are still alive, this is wonderful news. The council must be told. Kaharu said. No need. Danzo's little spy is already on his way to tell his master. No doubt the civilians will be told of the part one played in this deception and be screaming for my head. She replied. You mean Danzo managed to worm his way back into my office? Well, I'll deal with him soon enough. When will the Uchiha clan return? He replied. During the Chunin exams, and you should know that Sasuke Uchiha is not the heir of the Uchiha clan, his step-brother Itachi is. Apparently, Fugaku got a wild notion in his head that if he slept with the strongest female of the cadet branch, with him being this generation's strongest recorded male of the main branch, would produce the heir he always wanted, and Sasuke was the result. Makoto and rest of the Uchiha want nothing to do with him, and when they return, he will be disowned because of his father's actions. You know, sins of the father and all that crap. Kagaya said. One more thing, Hiruzen. From this day forth, Naruto and Natsumi are the heirs of the Otsutsuki clan with all the rights and privileges therein, and henceforth I will neither permit nor tolerate the civilians or elders sticking their noses into our clan affairs. To do so will invite their annihilation, present company accepted, of course. She said, looking at Hiruzen and Kaharu. Just then his office door flew open as everyone looked and saw an Anbu standing there. Hokage-sama, the council has called a meeting. He said, then disappeared in a shunshin. Good grief, this needs to stop. Tsunade, I want you, Kagaya, Kikyo, Akane, Yoruichi, Midoriko, Madara and Jiraiya to wait in the shadows in the council chamber. You will know when it's time to make yourselves known. Hiruzen said, getting up and walking to the council chamber with Kaharu following close behind. On their way, Hiruzen snapped his fingers and summoned two Anbu. Neko, Bear, you will inform Anko, Kurenai, Hana and Yakumo Kurama that their presence is requested in the council chambers, and wait for Naruto outside of the tower to make sure he arrives unobstructed. Yes, Hokage-sama, they said, leaving. So Neko, must feel good to have Naruto-kun back. Bear said. Yes, it does, the first chance I get he is getting a big kiss from me. She replied. Meanwhile at Otsutsuki Manor, Naruto was laying in the grass in the backyard with three lovely young women next to him when his family returned to the touching scene and decided to leave them be. Ino was occupying his chest, Hinata had taken his right arm with her head on his shoulder, and Satomi had taken his left. Naru-kun, you are being summoned. Ino said. Naruto looked at his fence, and just behind it was a blank masked Anbu with the kanji for ne on the front in the center. Otsutsuki, a council meeting has been called, you will come with me. The Anbu demanded. Two things, one, I know where the council chambers are, I don't need an escort. And two, I don't take orders from root scum. Tell your master my response word for word, I want him to know his days are numbered. He said, going back to his ladies. Well, sadly our time has come to an end. He said. What happened, Naru-kun? Satomi asked. I just had a visit from one of Danzo's ilk. A council meeting has been called, most likely because they now know I have returned, or Sasuke went bitching to them because I wouldn't give him my techniques. He replied. Or both. Ino said. Can we come with you? I don't see why not, however. When we get there, you must stand behind your respective clans just in case Danzo or the civilian council tries anything. He replied, getting a nod from each of them. Naruto, Ino, Satomi and Hinata disappeared in a flash step and were standing outside council chambers and were about to enter when two root agents stopped him and demanded his weapons, more specifically the sword of his left side. His response was to promptly remove their heads. Neither one of his ladies batted an eye at the gruesome scene, as they knew all about Danzo and Root from their parents and really didn't like them at all, so to see their fiancé kill two Root agents in cold blood without hesitation was kind of a turn-on for them. Just then Naruto kicked the council chamber doors off its hinges and announced himself. "What the hell do you want? Be silent, demon, we are the council, we own you and you will show us proper respect." One fat councilman shouted, only for Naruto to brutally kill him right then. The demon killed a member of the council. Anbu. Kill the creature before he kills us all. Another ignorant council member shouted. 10 root agents jumped out of the shadows and drew their weapons. Then, much to the shock of the grinning and greedy civilian council members, a bright flash of white light occurred and the root agents were sent through the air as after images of Naruto were seen beheading each one. Think Yoruichi's fight with Soifun during the Soul Society arc, it's the same technique. Just then Naruto appeared in front of the civilian council and immediately killed the last councilman that called him a demon and said, "Are you worthless bugs done wasting my time? If so, I'm going home." Actually, Naruto, we called you here for 2 reasons. 1. Some people wanted to say hello to you, and 2. One Sasuke Uchiha has claimed that you stole Uchiha clan techniques from his clan library. But first, ladies, Hiruzen said. Naruto was tackled by Sume, Hana, Yugao, Kurenai, Anko, Yakumo, Kurama and Mebuki, and Rose Haruno, giving him hugs and kisses and welcoming him home. Just then the yell of a councilman rang out throughout the room. "Mebuki, Rose, what is the meaning of this? Remove yourself from that thing this instance. Be quiet. You were always a fool, Arashi. There was a time that I loved you, but after the Kyuubi attacked 14 years ago you changed and shortly after started attacking Naruto-kun for no reason. It was then that Rose and I started distancing myself from you, and then I discovered that you were the one that orchestrated the mob that attacked Naruto-kun when he was 8, that almost killed him. That was when I decided that I no longer loved you and started to plan for my divorce from you. As of this moment, commoner scum, you are no longer part of the Haruno family." Mebuki said. "Okawa-chan, why?" Sakura asked. "Sakura-chan, come here, sweetie. You see, between myself and your father, I was of noble birth and your father was a commoner. When we married, clan law dictated that when he married into our family that he shed his family name and take the Haruno name, as I was clan heir and next in line to be head, and he would be clan head in name only. In our marriage agreement there was a clause that stated that in the event of a divorce that your father was to lose his parental rights and be banished from the clan with only what brought into the marriage and nothing more. As of this moment that thing is no longer your father due to violating our most basic tenet. He took part in the neglect and physical abuse of a child, and not just any child, the son of Kagaya Otsutsuki, or as we all knew her, Kushina Uzumaki, and my godson. Sakura's redemption right here. You mean? Sakura asked with a gleam in her eye. Yes, Sakura-chan, since Naruto-kun is my godson, that makes you and Rose his god siblings. Since he is a week older than you, he is technically your older brother in all but blood. She said, knowing that Sakura was happy as she always wanted a brother, and she promptly gave Naruto a hug. The silence in the room was palpable as no one knew any of this. The shock came when the reveal of Naruto's mother came to light, as everyone knew who Kagaya Otsutsuki was. She was the mother of chakra and a goddess, making Naruto a demigod and grandson of Amaterasu, or as everyone knew her, Kami. What remained of the civilian council and the elders Danzo and Homura already had an ace in hole, or at least they thought they did, and being the greedy bastards they were, decided to bring it up. I mean, Sasuke was getting his techniques, why not take their pound of flesh as well? Alright Naruto, now that is done, we have other business. Hiruzen said. Oh right. The ignorant little crow thinks I will give him what he wants simply because of his family name. Honestly, the answer to such ludicrous demands is no. I will not give him my techniques. I will not teach him my techniques, and no, I didn't steal them, as they were always in the possession of my clan, and with my clan they will stay, and that is final. If we're done here, I'm going home. Naruto said. Just a minute, boy, you do have quite a few things that don't belong to you and we want them returned. Danzo said. Oh, and what would that be? As far as I know, everything in my possession belongs to me, so I have no idea what you could be talking about. Naruto said with a devilish smirk. I'll handle this one, Naru-kun. Kagaya said as she and Tsunade, Kikyo, Akane, Yoruichi, Midoriko, Madara and Jiraiya appeared from hiding places within the council chambers. Previously on Naruto, Konoha's Jubi no Kitsune. Oh right, the ignorant little crow thinks I will give him what he wants simply because of his family name. Honestly, the answer to such ludicrous demands is no. I will not give him my techniques. I will not teach him my techniques, and no, I didn't steal them, as they were always in the possession of my clan, and with my clan they will stay, and that is final. If we're done here, I'm going home. Naruto said. Just a minute, boy, you do have quite a few things that don't belong to you and we want them returned. Danzo said. Oh, and what would that be? As far as I know, everything in my possession belongs to me, so I have no idea what you could be talking about. Naruto said with a devilish smirk. I'll handle this one, Naru-kun. Kagaya said as she and Tsunade, Kikyo, Akane, Yoruichi, Midoriko, Madara and Jiraiya appeared from hiding places within the council chambers. Present. Just what does my son have that you claim belongs to you, Danzo? Kagaya asked. Before he died, your husband made an agreement with all of us that your estate and all monetary assets would become the property of Konoha for us to do with as we please, and we have the written agreements to prove it. Danzo said with an arrogant smirk. You mean these agreements? Kagaya said, producing a sealed scroll, noting the look of shock on the Warhawk's face. Danzo, you and the rest of the idiots in this room failed to realize one very important thing. And that would be? He asked. Oh, nothing much, just the fact that since I was and always have been the head of the Otsutsuki clan and Minato was the head only on paper, you are not entitled to anything. She said as she burned the scroll in her hand, destroying any proof of the documents the scroll contained. What have you done? One of the civilian counselors screamed. We needed that money for the civilians. Fool. Since none of you know clan laws, allow me to give you a crash course. My clan, the Otsutsuki, was the first shinobi clan of this world, as well as the progenitor of every Kekkei Genkei in existence, and in terms of noble status we are higher than even the daimyo of Hai no Kuni as is the branch clans under our banner, whereas the Namikaze is a very low-level noble clan. Compared to us, they are nothing more than commoners. When we married, he took my name instead of me taking his, therefore making him the head of the branch family with no real authority beyond that, since the overall decisions on the direction the clan took in the present as well as the future still rested with me as the true head of the clan. When Minato made those agreements with you all, he not only challenged my rights and status as head of the clan but also that of my children as my heirs. Were he not already dead, I would kill him myself. Kagaya said. Anbu. Kill this whore. A civilian council member shouted. As three Anbu made their move, the Hokage made his and killed the offending Anbu and civilian that gave the order. Hiruzen, what is the meaning of this? You just killed your own ninja. Homura shouted. Wrong, and it's Hokage-sama to you. The ninja of this village answer to me and me alone. Any ninja that follows the orders of the civilian council is not one mine and will be killed on charges of treason, just as those three were. I am Hokage, my word is law. This is a ninja village, and as such it is a dictatorship, not a democracy. Is that clear, Homura? Hiruzen replied. Yes, Hokage-sama. He replied. But Hokage-sama, what about our agreements with Minato? As the agreements were not legal in the first place, they are null and void, he said. When he said this, the civilian half of the council erupted into chaos. Silence. Since Minato was not head of the main branch of the clan and just the head of the branch family, it was not legal under Konoha law for him to enter into any agreement with any of you on behalf of the clan, and the moment he did constituted as treason against the clan and against Konoha for such a gross violation of our laws. Each and every one of you knows the laws just as I do, and the moment you signed those agreements it was considered treasonous, and as such, I could have all of you executed right here. However, as I am merciful, I shall refrain. I did not, however, say that Tsunade couldn't punish you for your crimes against her. He said. Hiruzen, what crimes did we commit against Tsunade? Danzo asked. That's Hokage-sama to Danzo, but since we are on the subject, why don't I let Tsunade tell you herself? He said as everyone looked at the Slug Queen. You want to know what crimes you committed against me, do you? Well, 14 years ago on the night of October 10th, the day the Kyuubi attacked, you told me my fiancé was dead, and then for 8 long years ensured I stayed away so you could beat him to near death when you were in the mood. She yelled as everyone now understood what she was referring to. What happened next shocked everyone as no one was expecting it. She immediately flared her ki and proceeded to give them 8 years of beatings Naruto endured back 100-fold. All anyone heard was the sound of flesh hitting flesh, bones cracking and blood splattering on the floor of the council chambers. When she was done with one session, she healed them and started again. This continued for what seemed like an eternity, but in actuality only 15 minutes had passed. Feel better, Haim? Naruto asked as he wrapped his arms around her from behind. Much, was all she said as stood there enjoying the feeling of Naruto's strong arms wrapped around her. Danzo awoke after being healed for the final time and glared at Kagaya, which she caught. Yes, Danzo, you look like you have something to say, she said, already knowing what he was thinking. Danzo looked at her with a smirk and said, why don't you tell everyone your part in the Uchiha massacre, as you are just as guilty as Itachi and Izumi for the events of that night. She looked at the Hokage and said, see, I told you he was listening. The Hokage and Kaharu just gave a mirthful chuckle, all the while shaking their heads. Danzo, you must mean the fact that I saved 157 members of the Uchiha clan and moved them outside the village and watched while Itachi and his sister Izumi disposed of the rest. Or the fact that they will be returning during the Chunin exams, or possibly the fact that Makoto Uchiha, the current head of the Uchiha clan, is planning on disowning Sasuke because her bastard husband cheated on her with an Uchiha branch family whore. Tell me, Danzo, is that what you wanted to know? She replied. What? Sasuke-sama is our savior and you whore will be put to death for your part in this. Homura exclaimed, only to come face to face with the point of Naruto's blade. No, she won't be, and if you threaten my mother again or anyone I care about for that matter, I will kill you. Naruto said as his eyes took on an ominous red glow. Gigi, can I go now? Yes, Naruto-kun, as the meeting is over you may go, but remember you have team assignments in 1 week, don't forget. He said. I won't forget, Gigi, see you later. Naruto said as he and his ladies made a beeline for the Otsutsuki estate. 1 week later. Naruto, Natsumi and Sakura walked into the academy classroom and immediately moved to sit next to their friends, shocking the members of Sasuke's fan club when Sakura didn't acknowledge him as they were too engrossed in the events that took place after the graduation exam a week prior. Flashback. The graduation exam ended and Naruto and Natsumi were made shinobi and kunoichi of the year, which didn't set well with the resident emo. What? I'm an Uchiha, an elite, that title is mine, not some no-name loser that just showed up out of nowhere. Sasuke shouted. Yeah, same goes for me and the whore. One of Sasuke's fangirls shouted. Sorry you two, but Naruto and Natsumi just scored higher than you. Iruka said with a smirk, taking pride in Sasuke's reaction to that bit of news.